to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And take that away.
You know, that's my take. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It's a science thing, is a science place, is a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only, Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. A very special night for a number of reasons, not the least of which is my mic placement, but we are streaming on Twitch for the first time. It's right now it's under my name, Conan_Neutron. But, of course, this is the Great Protonic Reversal. It's also on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, etc., and right here on Radio Nope as well. I'm your host, Conan Neutron. I am a rock and roll lifer who has toured and recorded for over 22 years. Most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect. Folks that may or may not be household names, but do something very special. This is episode 273. If this is your first time listening to the show, all the archives are protonicreversal.com and are always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. If you'd like to support the show and get episodes sooner, you can give $1 a month to patreon.com/protonicreversal. If you like the show, or even just a single episode, please feel free to share it along, like, subscribe, or post a review. All of that helps people find the show, and it's just a nice thing to do. All right. Cherubs, let's go. Without further ado, there's a little ado. Not too much further ado, though. If you're here, you're probably here because I got a couple of very special dudes coming on this show that I've been looking to have on for quite some time. We are talking about the mighty Cherubs. So with that, why don't we go ahead and add in, ta-da, Kevin and Brent. Welcome, man.
Cheers.
Howdy.
I like the reveal. That's good. That's a good one. I like the reveal quite a bit. Thanks so much for coming on the show, dudes. Speaking of revealing, you guys have a new release, man. That came out of nowhere. Or it came out of nowhere for me. It's probably not.
Came out of somewhere.
Yeah.
It had a long incubation period through the pandemic.
So when did you guys, just to dive right into it, when did you guys get going with recording that? Had that been kind of a long, arduous process? Was it, kind of a short burst of, hey, let's do this thing? Like, tell me the story about this.
It's leftovers from the Immaculata High sessions.
Gotcha.
Not leftovers in the traditional sense of leftovers. They were just ones that didn't fit the motif.
Sure, and I feel like,
but we do like this magic effect of
leftovers
making it seem like we went into the studio during COVID.
Yeah. So
if we're being honest, it's not the case.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate we expect total transparency here in Protonic Reversal, so appreciate that you guys doing that. But I mean, that said, there's some jammers. So was there just did you just track I guess you must have tracked a gang of stuff for that record, huh? There just must have been like a lot that was it just because it didn't fit the sound of what you had in mind, like you said, or was it, like some stuff just cool, but not for this, that kind of moment?
We just had to fit into time constraints. We recorded a bunch of shit and it didn't all fit on a record. And we saved a grouping that fit together for this release.
I think Eric was a little embarrassed that when he counted the songs, he was like, I should have charged you guys more.
Not too late.
He was like, 15 fucking songs. I should have charged you
16.
guys. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Who's counting? That's awesome. Yeah, we had a bunch of sequences, and some of those pieces just didn't fit on the sequence, though. You know, something like Pacemaker maybe could have gone away and been replaced with something.
You had to bring up Pacemaker just right off the bat.
Is that a contentious one?
There's this real thin line between loving and hating a song for us. And
Okay.
every now and then there's a song where if we had just kind of worked through it for one more 2-hour practice, it could have jumped into that latter category. But,
Right.
you know, there's one or two that get away.
Yeah, you
That didn't
start
happen.
lavishing attention on some of them, and some of them languish, and that's the way it goes. So that one felt like it could have been something, and we just like, fuck it, let's do these other ones.
I mean, you guys got a somewhat idiosyncratic and recognizable, although evolving sound always. Are they usually jammed out in a room? Like how do the songs normally come together? Or are there varying methods of how Cherubs songs come together?
That's weird.
Is that a difficult question?
It's kind of like an audition at first. Kevin will display a host of riffs and ideas, and I get to sit there like the two men up in the balcony and be like, oh, that's it. Yeah. And then we just start working on stuff, and I do a lot of counting in the beginning to figure out what the fuck's going on. And with the hope that eventually it'll become this organic thing that I no longer have to count, so I can enjoy it while I'm playing it. But yeah, we begin this process of like old married couple, just deconstructing, bickering, arguing, agreeing, celebrating, and yeah, it works out. 99%.
It does. If you gotta be patient. Sometimes, like if I really like something, I'll gloss over it when I present it to him, because I don't want him to lavish. I don't want him to attend to it too much early on, because sometimes he'll be like, "Fuck that one." I'm like, "God damn it! I shouldn't even have played it for him." And then
You don't want to be too eager.
yeah, exactly. And if I wait, sometimes those will come back into rotation and they'll be favored later. But I have to allow for them to be kind of destroyed, and then we put them back together in a different way, because sometimes you have to subvert grunge tendencies and tendencies that you have, right? Led Zeppelin tendencies and Alice in Chains tendencies, and these things that are in there.
Yeah, every little thing that we do, down to the smallest minutia of it, has this timestamp on it in our head. And we'll be trying to work through something, and we'll be like, that's what we would have done in 1992. And we'll tweak it a little bit. And then we're like, that's what we would have done in 2015.
So we're moving up.
We'll tweak it a little bit more. And then there it is.
Well, I think that's
when we arrived at it, which is the cool thing. That's why we're still together after all these years.
We know what we're doing when we don't know what it is anymore. Like
Right.
we know we've arrived at the thing when we don't know what it is anymore, because you just have to fuck it up or it doesn't work. And so if we get to the end of something and we have fucked it up, and it's still maintaining some kind of integrity then it works. And there's some songs that we don't even know what the fuck they are, like 18. That song is literally a song where I'll see you at the end of the song. Hopefully we will arrive at the parts at the same time, and then I'll see you at the end. And it's an impossible song, because it's just like, I don't even know.
It's a scary venture playing some of these songs live.
It seems like it's just as thrilling and unexpected for the people in the band as it is maybe for the audience. For
Some of them, yeah, that's for sure.
Well, it's all the more rewarding when you pull it off.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
And
true.
there's always this knowing look that happens at the end of a song. It gets pulled off, and it's like,
Hey,
Next.
I can't believe we did that. Okay, let's do it.
Respect.
Yeah.
we never used to do such things to ourselves as far as time signature conflagration back in the old days, but as of late we've kind of been enjoying being in different time signatures where we kind of hit here together, and then a little later on we hit here together, and we know everything is being held down. And the trick is to get it to not sound, towhead dorky, and still sound organic.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's, so you've given lots of chew on for there. If I may say that I wish the little too grunge as a note, you could have used a lot of that in the 90s. I think if you guys could get it in a time machine and maybe work on that, I think that would be good. But it's interesting to me that to hear you guys talk about this, in 2021 versus, think back to when you started. Was it always kind of that way, or is this more like you guys looking at it, with maybe clearer heads to some degree and kind of knowing what the voice of the band was and still wanting to grow and push that out, that you have to try it a different kind of way, right?
Clearer heads indeed, Conan. Clearer heads indeed. Less piss and vinegar, less punk ass.
Back then it was a buffet of amazing ideas all around you, right? When during that time period that we were active and younger, so much was going on, and so much of it was so good. So you were like getting slapped in the face every time you listened to something new. It's like, God damn, that's possible. God damn, that's badass. And so you're just dealing, and you're factoring it in, and then you have to put it through our unique filter, which is just us. And it came out the way it came out. And then once you get in there, you start to realize you can affect it too. Because if you see the influences too much back in the day, you really had to work hard. At least now, the time has passed for us. And so you're not working as hard to disguise it, because you trust that once you start interpreting, it's going to come out weird and it's going to come out you. So now all we have to do is defy who the fuck we are now, because it just gets trodden territory real quick.
So you hit on something that I was going to bring up a little later on, but the idea of, and I'm just thinking even back to the trance syndicate bands or whatnot, that there was really only a correlating factor is, wow, that's interesting, versus, oh, that's a such and such kind of band, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
A trance syndicate band didn't mean the same thing as what another label. Yeah. Perfect example. Yeah. I'll love, but fuck yeah. And I feel like currently that's kind of gone away. Like the idea of oh no, we got to do something unique and different, or everyone's going to goof on us and be like, oh, you guys, I think that's almost gone away as has become this permanent nostalgia train that has been great for some bands, right? It brought out some bands that never got their due, never found their audience when they were around, and suddenly they have, and that's wonderful. It's amazing. I'm always for that, but it almost has turned into, and I'm just going to use the word, genre fetishism.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys agree, or is this just a Neutron opinion?
I agree. I'm tempted to name names, but it's not happening.
You get so much fucking trouble.
Oh my.
Yeah. Don't name names. That's what I've learned. There's some people that wouldn't come on the show because I did that. But anyway, but then even by that same token, when I think of early Cherubs and stuff like that, and even stuff off Heroin Man, it was pretty distinctive. There was no band that sounded quite like Cherubs, and still that is still true. That it's pretty unique, but that has come to mean something different. And that's a hard beam. That's a hard beam to walk, for sure.
Well, I actually think it was easier in the old days when there were not really other bands that sounded like us. And these days, I hear little bits and pieces of us or what we do or what we've done all over the place. And so when we're working out songs now, it feels like the onus is on us even more so to stay differentiated and stay us without repeating us and without borrowing from people who have in turn borrowed from us originally. I think it's more difficult now, actually, just, you know.
Yeah.
I agree. Just because we weren't reacting to who we were then.
Yeah.
We were just being who we were. So that was easy. You know, you're spitting some shit out and all of a sudden you like it and you have you don't really understand why. We actually like things for different reasons now. Like what the fuck is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why does that work? There's some weird shit where things work and it doesn't even make sense. Yeah. And then you're like, don't question it. We'll just figure out how to do it.
It has been a lot more fun.
Yeah.
In the later era. Back in the old days, the only rule was if anything started to sound too much like Jesus Lizard or The Unsane, then you had to turn a corner. You had to flip something over and change it. And nowadays there's just like there's just too many out there.
Yeah, you can't keep up with what it might sound like anymore.
Yeah.
You can't concern yourself with that because that way lies madness, pretty much.
Exactly. We allowed ourselves Terminator for Unsane. That's our homage. And then after that, we're kind of done. So
right. There's that one.
Yeah. Because there was no doubt that they were that influential. They totally influenced us. We love them.
Do we feel
that was
Animator?
Called? Animator. Sorry. I don't even know the names of our songs.
I was like doing the mental Rolodex thing, but I also didn't want to look uncool. So I was like,
you did good. Yeah, I thought you were you looked legit.
He's fresh out of an Arnold Schwarzenegger film festival.
I mean, first Terminator and Terminator 2 are astounding, and then there's some other movies as well.
Exactly.
But that goes back to like almost competing with yourself, right? Like you don't want to make like Mr. Goy Revisited or like I think back to what is it? Metallica with Unforgiven Part 5. Like oh God, really? It's enough. Nobody's looking for this. Like you don't need to do that. And that's like the more like comical example, I guess, right? But like
it's like a theme career instead of a theme album.
But I mean, there's not that kind of thing with the Cherubs records. Like it's like, I mean, there's like, if you would have told me before I heard the record in 2019 that like, oh yeah, it's gonna like there's some shoegazy kind of stuff in here,
right?
Yeah,
I've been like, that is surprising to me, but I loved it. It's great because it sounded like you guys, continues to sound like you guys, while also pushing the sound and moving things forward. And I think that's for me, that's exciting. That's exciting stuff, and I hope that I think most people that would listen to this show would agree with that, and if not, they damn well should. But that's coming from the outside. Like for you guys, is it just more of like a natural progression of like, hey, let's kind of let's psych this out a little bit. Let's like do a big sweeping sound here that like otherwise we would like do more like square riffs. Like what are you even thinking about any of that, or is it just like?
Oh yes. There's riffs. You hit on a particular battle that exists for us.
Okay.
And Kevin is so adept at coming up with riffs that we have to constantly fight ourselves and fight our urges to just riff out all over the place because they're fun and they're great and they sound cool. But then once we get through with it, there's something that it's not doing that we need it to do. And then enter the shoegazy stuff or the organic time signature stuff that it's surprising to us. I mean, our songs like go through these phases where there's the initial attack on it, then we get away from it for a couple of weeks, and then we'll let it kind of marinate. We come back in the room and we'll work on it some more. It'll make some distinct changes, and once it hits this kind of plateau, it's like quote unquote ready to go into the studio and record, and they all turn out to be different songs once we get in the studio as well. Like there's this final thing that happens where I think that's where the magic happens for us, especially in mixing, where if we're smart about constructing them in a way to where once we get in there, then we can have fun and do some weird shit. Then, you know, it'll come out in a way that surprises us a lot of times.
It's hard to not get bored and feel ridiculous
Yeah.
when you're making a song. You're in this room and you're making these choices that are super subjective, and yet they're very clearly the right choice, and then there's a myriad of wrong choices, and that doesn't make sense either. So it's a fucking ridiculous predicament to write a song that makes any kind of sense to more than one person. You know, I mean, if we wrote the perfect riff, seems like we could just play that for 10 minutes.
Variations on a theme.
Right.
You know, I've been wanting to do an album of just variations on one theme forever, because it would be so easy and so satisfying to not have to make all those choices. Just do it 12 different ways.
Exactly, like Duck.
Yeah.
So two things. Alert fan and friend Jonathan Brown said, according to the meta closed captioning, shoegaze equals shoecase. So may I suggest that as a, you know, if you don't use Terminator for the next song, then you can use shoecase. Jonathan
was going to heckle the shit out of this thing, and I see he's already started. I'm looking forward to more from Jonathan.
JB.
JB. Yeah. Which yeah, in the interest of full disclosure, he has a secret friend as well, but he's also an explicit one. And it's always a pleasure whenever he tunes in. I know he's a busy man. So on that, and like, how do you know when it's fully baked, right? Like, when do you stop? When's it enough?
I mean, what generally happens is there'll be a riff that comes seemingly out of nowhere, and Brent will have I can't do this, and I can't do this, because then it will be this. And he'll come in and against it, and we'll try something and it'll fall flat on its face. And then we'll leave it. And then we'll try something and it's so good that we leave it, because
we'll fuck it up.
You don't want to touch it at that point. It's like, oh shit, don't touch this. Like Tourista. Right. When we did Tourista, you know, the reason that's a problematic song is because I don't know what the fuck time signature I'm in, but he does this thing that it resolves somewhere down the line, and we literally just played our parts until they resolved at kind of the right time, and then I just trimmed the part to make it fit. Now that seems really kind of stupid, but it was just the way that it worked, and we're like, okay, I'll see you at 18 or 19 or whatever the fuck that is down there. I'll see you there. And right. When we got that, we were like, okay, record that. Let's don't touch it. Something is really cool right there, and I have no idea why it's working. And you know, then you kind of sneak up on it like you're sneaking up on some kind of thing in the woods to try to
it sounds like you're hunting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. You don't know what it is, and you're trying to figure it out.
And then you go through it all over again in the studio.
Yeah.
Once you're hearing it with some sounds attached to it, and then you start mixing, and then unfortunately for the engineer, that's when the ideas start pouring in. The bright ideas. I'm usually the most guilty of that. I get shot out of a cannon, and I'm just like, oh, we do this. And we kind of take turns on whoever's got the scent for what needs to happen on a particular song. It's more meaningful for whatever reason to one of the two of us. Then the other person will recognize, okay, this is you. You go ahead, scoot your chair up closer to Eric, and you tell him what's going on.
Right. It's the put me in, coach, I'm ready to play moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your time has arrived. So do you think that has it always been that way for you guys in the studio, or is that like somewhat like, you know, more on the recent records and the recent?
Only since we learned more about the studio. You know, you start out and you don't really get to touch shit. You know, on Icing, we recorded that on a weekend, and we didn't get to do anything to it. We didn't get to listen to it hardly. We didn't get to have any second sight on it or perspective. And so it is what it is.
It started at Heroin Man.
Yeah.
That's when I first realized, oh, I can blurt out whatever the fuck I want to. And if I stamp my feet hard enough, we're going to try this stupid idea. And, 2 out of 50 hit, and they hit good.
Those two, bang.
Yeah, it's like, Brent's got an idea. I roll.
That's when we also understood what mastering was, and that mastering was really just another shot at making stuff. And when I remember when King got the bill for mastering for Heroin Man, he was shocked. But when I went to mastering, and there was so much still that you could do, and we, cross-faded shit. I was like, this is amazing.
And now nobody does that.
Yeah. Now
nobody gets to sit with the master.
Now from what I've heard, everyone just puts the verse on again at the end of the song and cuts it off halfway through. That's what I'm hearing every time I hear the radio now. It's interesting.
There was in the 2000s, it was just, it wasn't even a loudness war. It was just got one gigantic block. The waveform is just a block.
Yeah, I think that's probably what shoegaze did, and maybe that's a Ride and My Bloody Valentine. I mean, shit, probably Velvet Underground was doing that back then. They just didn't really.
They just didn't record it.
They didn't record it loud. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and whatever, if that's the aesthetic, that's fine. Like, I think the ultimate culmination of that is like the Iggy mixes of Raw Power, right? Where it's just like, I've never heard a louder record in my life. And, I've toured with Jucifer. Like, it's like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. And I think it's interesting to hear you guys kind of talk about that side of it, because I think mastering is like the thing that is understood the least, even by musicians.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows what mastering is except for basically mastering engineers. But
Mike McCarthy, he knows what mastering is.
It is a weird thing.
You either have the clock or you don't have the clock. You can get no clock level, or you can get the clock level, and then you're going to pay for the clock.
Right.
And that's the mastering clock.
The mastering clock.
The mastering clock.
Yeah. The clock in question.
Jumping off the vinyl.
Clock. Yeah, exactly. It's notable too that when you get something that hasn't been mastered and you understand mastering, you're like, oh, didn't master it, huh? All right. Like, you can tell, right? Like when you know.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear the difference, it's like, wow, that doesn't even make sense, but it's there. It's real. I remember Eric was mastering. Eric did the mastering on the last thing, and he said I'm going to change into my mastering hat now. And he would start mastering, and then I'd be sitting there for some of it, and I'd be going, what the fuck's going on? And then he'd go, ooh, I think that's it. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Nothing happened. And he's listening to different things, he's almost listening to his work and not our work at that point, right? Our work is done. Yeah. It's not like we're going to go back in and do some shit in the mastering process at that point, really. And he's going, I could bring that up. I could bring this down. I could enunciate this. I could enunciate that. So he's listening to certain things.
Getting frustrated by his own work.
Exactly.
At that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I hope he's listening.
He's
got a little kid at home.
Yeah, he does. He's got a little kid.
It's bedtime.
He's got things to do. He'll catch it on the replay. That's fine. There's show, believe me. So we talked about Icing, right? Let's just take it all the way back to the beginning. We talked about King. You did that one, 92. There's the one song that's like kind of played on Peel. I think you Smart Studios. I think is where you track that, right?
Yeah. Pink Party Dessert.
Right. Yeah, Party Dessert. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Pink Party Dessert.
That was on John Peel. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was referring to. And you guys are doing your own thing. You're coming from what I can only assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a community of bands that kind of are all doing something cool, but like kind of all doing their own thing.
Which is very much an Austin music scene commentary.
Right.
Exactly that. It's nobody sounds the same. Everyone's doing something that's their own thing and pretty interesting.
So did you just know King Coffey from Butthole Surfers, just from like the scene, just from around, like, what was, how did that all shake out?
How did that all shake out? Yes is the short answer.
Yeah, I mean,
we know him from around the scene.
The scene was really small, right? It felt small and insular, and I felt like, God, that's actually a really interesting question. Oh,
Ed Hall was on his radar.
Yeah, Ed Hall. Ed Hall toured with the Buttholes, and so he was familiar with us and me specifically from that time period. And we all practiced at the same place. So when we would go to when Ed Hall would go to practice, Butthole Surfers were in a big room in the back there. They had the big place, and then we all had these like satellite rooms around them. And Ed Hall was practicing there, and we were practicing when I quit Ed Hall because we were working on a song that we had been working on for, I swear, since we started. And we had just finished Glory Hole. And it was in that time period between when you finish it and it comes out where I usually get really depressed. I'm like, did we do enough? Is it good enough? Is it cool? Am I going to like it? What about that thing that we didn't touch? What about this? What about that? There's nothing you can do in that time period. And there's no feedback yet. So you don't know what the fuck's going on from the outside. And we were working on this song and I went, fuck this, man. I cannot do this anymore. What are we doing? Let's make some fucking decisions. And, so it was, I quit, and we got a practice space like 2 doors down from Ed Hall in the same spot. And that's where we practiced. And they'd come in and write nasty stuff on the wall when they'd come to practice. And
you going to tell them about your first practice as Cherubs?
No, tell me about it.
King Coffey was auditioned for the part.
That's right.
I am the second drummer of Cherubs.
Whoa.
Minus 1 practice. And King said, I don't understand what the fuck y'all are doing.
We tried to play Half a Rat. We had Half a Rat, and then we had Spitwad, I think. We had a few songs, and Half a Rat was the one, right? And we were like, he's going to get Half a Rat. He's going to kill it.
Yeah.
And we started playing it. And then when we came to the break or the rundown, he was like, what the fuck are y'all, what is this? So we'd go over and go start over. And he got really frustrated. And we were like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Why can't you get this? Because we didn't know. We didn't know anything about it. All we knew was that we knew it and that anyone else would easily know this shit. He's a drummer. Just play the drum. And
practically a standard.
It was rough for both of us because we thought we're going to knock this shit out of the park. And it didn't happen. And, we all slunk off. We thought something was wrong with us and he thought something was wrong with him. And Brent was at Wheatsville. I don't even know how.
You probably went into work the next day and you saw me going,
maybe so.
Healing Explosion was pretty cool.
Well, I fucking loved Healing Explosion.
Yeah. We've stolen
we stole
our fair share from that.
The sugary riff, that one of the riffs in that song is from that band. So yeah, we knew him at that point, and Trance. Well, Ed Hall, Glory Hole was. There was a moment when when Ed Hall's records ceased to be put out with Tom Flynn over at Boner, and started at Trance. And it might have been Glory Hole, might have been the one. I can't remember that for sure now, but I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right.
Glory Hole might have been the first one. So we were on that label, and the upshot of that was that he loved us. He loved us before because it was so weird in that practice time that we had. And I think when Brent came on and we started to actually do it, we were giving him cassette tapes saying, you see, this is how it's supposed to sound, King. He was such a sweetheart, and he still is. But it was weird. It was just a weird moment for both of us, really.
It's so funny because it's not like that dude is a stranger to weird music or like weird songs.
No, not at all. And I think that's why he really liked the stuff. He was like, holy shit, what is this going to turn into? We didn't know. We didn't know what it was going to turn into. we just knew that we were liking all the stuff that we were hearing around us, and we wanted to be a part of it. You know, we'd heard all of the bands. Everyone heard all the bands, and we wanted. I was like, "Fuck, this is cool, man." So we were just trying to be a part of it.
And that's 92, right? Like 90, 91, 92. Yeah, so it's like right as the gold rush starting, right? The music gold rush, where like they let the weirdos in for a half second, and before they autocorrect it.
Yeah, I guess that was when pure punk had run a little bit of its course, and then you started to have these iterations off of it.
Yeah, and I think every heavy band in 1991 was asking themselves, how much like the Melvins should we sound?
Yeah, and I remember thinking, I grew
some of
up,
them still are, by the way. Anyway, yeah.
Sure.
Move on.
Yes.
I grew up with rocks, Aerosmith rocks, and all the 70s kind of heavy stuff. And so when Green River,
by the way, I love that record. I got it.
Fuck.
Yeah, I had that record since I was 10.
That is just an insane record. Those first 3 songs.
Yeah,
what are you gonna do? That's a slay. They slay. And when Green River started to do all that stuff up there, and it sounded like that, I was like, whoa, these guys are going straight to my source, at least.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And I was really damn sad when that all split up into Mother Love Bone and Mudhoney and all that, because, I know Brent loves Mudhoney, but they don't do it for me. I never really liked them. No, absolutely not. Like, I was like, when Touch Me I'm 6 took off, I was like, fucking why? And
we're a different generation.
No, Kiss unites us,
Kiss unites us.
Kiss unites us.
Yeah. Kiss is both a uniter and a divider, but amongst music,
that's a
uniter.
Yeah.
Cheap Trick unites us as well.
Ooh.
Cheap Trick is, everyone can agree on Cheap Trick.
Fuck yeah.
By the way, the one and only time I saw Aerosmith was with Cheap Trick. I reviewed it for the local weekly as like, here's sarcastic punk rocker goes and sees arena rock show. But they started, and Cheap Trick was just predictably amazing, but they started with a combination. And I was like, okay.
Ooh,
nice.
Wow.
I see what, okay. And they didn't play any.
That's a deep cut.
I was stoked.
Wow.
And they didn't play any of the Desmond Child songs. So I'm like, fuck yes, didn't have to hear any of that BS.
Right.
And the only rotten part of the night is they did some stuff. I guess they have a record where it's all like blues numbers that is entitled Honkin' on Bobo. And they did a few songs from apparently Honkin' on Bobo, which sounds like a bit, but it's apparently a real record, and it was just dreadful. Like, I was like, this is ear cancer. I'm gonna go to beer. But but then it was still, when they hit the rockers, man, it was good.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'll goof on Aerosmith all day long and twice on Tuesdays, but that was a good ass rock show with like $8-9 beers. But whatever, that was the experience.
Cheap now.
Yeah,
fucking $9 beers, super cheap now.
Oh, they're on discount, huh?
Yeah.
So, anyways, all right. But anyway, who cares about
Honking on Bobo? That's weird.
Honking, it's dreadful. It's. I mean, here's the deal. What do you think that sounds like? That's what it sounds like, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just somebody should have been like, "Hey, man, no, don't do that."
Yeah,
that ain't no dick a dum dum.
No, it's not.
Who's that?
Oh fuck, Martine, if you're watching, please
throw
in a message and tell us who that was.
Go to the chat box or chat boxes. We got like 5 of them now.
Damn it.
We got it in Brussels. The greatest 7-inch single maybe ever made.
Dick a dum dum, dick a dum dum. Damn, that was a good record.
I'm intrigued now. Now I must know.
Oh, you're gonna freak out. The phrasing on that is incredible. Oh God, I can't remember the dude's name.
Don't talk amongst yourselves.
It's so good. Brent's looking it up. We'll find it.
D-I-K?
D-I-K, yeah. Dick a dum dum.
Clearly it would be D-I-K.
It's gonna worm you out. It's so good.
From the chat box, Honkin' on Bobo deluxe package came with a mini harmonica.
Oh God.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the Aerosmith boys.
Does it? Here it comes. Hello. I mean,
Des O'Connor.
Des O'Connor.
Des.
God, that's insane.
There you go.
Girl.
We're all learning a little something on this episode. It's lovely.
Yes.
God, I hope
Anyway, back to Icing.
Yeah.
So that record comes out. It's I always refer to that as the gold rush times for again, because there was this kind of brief moment where the Borg didn't know exactly how to deal with stuff and I couldn't assimilate them yet. So the weirdos got to parlay their stuff to a larger audience before they figured it out, and we got all the bands I'm not going to name that were the manufactured alternative bands. So that said, Cherubs were pretty much Freak Factor 9 from the jump. You guys clearly went by, you flew your own flag, ran your own race. What was it like as a band then? What were you? Was it getting over when you played for folks? Was it Pearls Before Swine? Was it like a flying saucer attack? Any and all of the above? Those early days.
for Icing specifically,
yeah,
I don't think that we had figured out exactly what we wanted to do yet. And I think it shows if you go back and listen in reverse order to the records. I think when I go back and when I've heard songs from Icing, you hear these little things that refer to what's coming next. But it seemed like there was a little bit of confusion still at that point, as far as how we were going to construct songs and strategies and approaches and sounds and stuff. I mean, there's some great songs on the record, I think, but
no, absolutely. But
if I had to pick one record that exemplifies us the least, then that would be it.
Do you remember how it was received though? Like I remember we were out of the gate and playing for big crowds fast.
Yeah, it fit the times apparently.
It was heady. I remember going to emos and playing at emos and going, Jesus, this place is fucking packed. And we hadn't been around, we hadn't played anywhere. We had a record before we played.
Yeah.
People were like, I don't remember that being a bad thing. A lot of people would think that we would be like, oh,
it was received well.
They didn't pay their dues, but I think it was received well.
Well, a couple of my scummy punk rock friends probably felt that way.
Right.
Yeah, their opinions don't fucking matter.
Yeah. Average them out, still zero.
Yeah, it felt like we were off to the races. I remember that because being from you were in Sugar Shack, and Sugar Shack had fucking massive crowds, but Ed Hall, we played to nobody for a long fucking time. It took a long time for us to get to take hold. And I remember the Cherubs part of that was did not exist. We were just off and running. It was real fast. And that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds cool.
It was cool. It was not lost on us. It was like, fuck, it was cool.
The only thing that was missing, which is a big difference between the newest incarnation, was girls at the shows.
Yeah,
there wasn't one to be found. Maybe one.
More dudes in a Rush concert, huh?
Oh my God, it was crazy. I remember when you see some girls, and it's like, golly, there's a girl. It was like an exotic thing at a show because all the guys it was just guys that wanted to fucking tear shit up. And, I remember going to some dude's house. I don't remember where it was, but we were at his house and he was a fucking weirdo. And, he was saying he wanted to talk about the song All Chickened Out. And he's saying, is that when you get tired of fucking little boys?
Whoa!
And I was like, what? I said, that's what you think that song is about? And he goes, well, I mean, that's what it sounds like. I was like, fuck. You don't know how your shit's gonna go with other people and what's gonna happen.
First I'm hearing of this, Conan.
And I was like, it made me want to not do it anymore, just because you put that shit out there, and if it doesn't sound like a damn nursery rhyme, nobody's gotten it, it's like, oh, it's okay. Everything's okay. But you can't do this big music and be nasty and have people. And if that's how it's going to be interpreted, it's fucking scary.
God, I once got super bummed out because someone charitably to them compared my band to Alice in Chains, and I was like, oh. But I mean, that's like a birthday party compared to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome relative to some of this stuff that I just these little bitty snippets, and you're going, man.
They used to compare us to Helmet all the time.
Yeah,
I just did not.
I didn't hear that either. We are not militaristic like that,
Yeah,
they're like on the fucking thing, boom, 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 boom. We are not like that. We're a jalopy.
Well, and I think the jalopy hit full speed when you hit the Heroin Man, which I consider one of the best records of the '90s, and certainly one of the most unique sounding. And to me, that's when it seems like the band kind of found its voice.
Yeah, that's for sure. We were a little bit more in control of what was going on at that point.
So talk to me about that one. You've been a band and played shows, and like what gets over and what you like doing and what you probably are not going to be doing again. Like, how does that inform the writing for that record?
Man, that whole thing was a blizzard to me, and I still can't understand how we recorded that many songs. I don't even understand how we did that.
We had just boundless energy, creative and physical, and we were excited by everything that we were doing, and we didn't realize what was good or what was bad. We just liked it all, and we had some experiences going in the studio and recording stuff in other bands before that, and Icing, which was a real different experience. But this is the first time we went into a studio. Mike Vasquez owned Sweatbox Studios. They were a new studio, and he was still learning. And he let us put our hands all over the board and say, "What would it sound like if I turned this?"
Right. What does this one do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I just do that?
And Paul Stottinger was in there kind of going, well, technically you can't do that. But he knew kind of what was going on a little bit.
There we go. Sorry about that.
I remember the conversation.
Said he was in there.
Do you remember the conversation when we said we want everything to go into the red? And there was this big debate about why it wouldn't be a good idea and how it wouldn't translate. And the naysaying was
it was big. I remember that. It was palpable. And I remember too, when that record came out, Adam Wiltsey called me, or I ran into him somewhere, and he said, "I want to talk to you about Heroin Man." And Adam at that point had been with Flaming Lips, not playing in the Flaming Lips, but I think he was their sound man, and he went on to become Stars of the Lid. And
of course,
yeah. And so when he goes, "I want to know how you guys got those sounds on that record," and I was like, "Fuck, dude, I do not know." We were just tearing shit up in there. We were turning things up too high. We were just figuring it out, and we didn't know what to.
That was the record where we discovered having a separate track, what we call a noise bed, where there's just some guitar noise, whether it's feedback or buzz or whatever, just happening at very low levels in the mix, would do all of these weird symphonic things to the song, to where you think you hear violas in this one part, and then you think you hear some kind of industrial hammer like hitting right here, and that stuff's not in there. But it was turning into this, like, that's when I realized the studio is where the magic happens. It's the songs are they're one thing when you go in, and they're completely different when you leave.
We couldn't get it to be like the live stuff. It never felt noisy enough, and it never felt, one of the things about Cherubs on the guitar parts were that I always wanted to have strings ringing, open strings ringing. So
like the Stooges, like Ron Asheton and the Stooges would always do that, and that was his nod to yes. What am I can't think of the guy. The thing. For those listening to the audio version, I'm flailing around wildly trying to mime. I can't think. It's quite entertaining. Anyway, but yeah. The ringing out. Yes, please.
Yeah, so we couldn't get it. We never could figure out to do it until we realized, oh, we'll make it. We'll put it back in, and they sound like bees, and so we put the bees in, and the bees come in on songs, and we use them to kind of as a bed for things, and then they go away sometimes. But that's part of having those strings ring out, because we were three pieces, and we were trying to be as gigantic as possible, so everything needed to be on and loud, and that was one of the ways to do it, was just like fucking just make it loud, make every string ring. And
we also grew up in the cassette era, where if you have a crappy cassette player and you had it up too loud, you would get this natural distortion. And there was no other bands that sounded like that unless you listened to their music on a cassette turned up too loud, or in a shitty stock car stereo that was up too loud. And we talked about that, and we were like, how can we get that? And we'd like, let's just push the levels. And I didn't realize that we were going to come up against it with the engineers on that. But now lots of people do it. So apparently it's okay.
Do you remember a specific cassette or specific bands or cassettes that hit you that way, that you were like, oh my God?
Well, for me, in my old caddy, I had the 8-track, and I used to listen to Boston and the Stooges on 8-track and have it just blasting. Okay. It was the shittiest stereo, and it sounded amazing, and nothing else ever sounded like that.
I had mine was
I could hear both of the bands sounding
Killing
super
Joke Revelations.
Yeah,
I had a cassette in West Texas State, Canyon, Texas, and I don't know where the fuck this cassette came from, but it was playing in a studio one time on a little bitty jam box, and it was, Here Come the Pandies and The Hum and all those songs on that fucking record. And it was just blasting through this thing. And I thought, this is the fucking jam.
Noted.
Yeah. This is scaring the shit out of me. and it shouldn't be. It's just some sound coming out of a damn cassette player. And that record is amazing, but boy, it's really amazing on cassette coming out of a stupid jam box.
And there's something to be said for that format and the limitations of that format, and especially for a certain kind of music. And when I think of Heroin Man, I mean, that is a unique sounding record. Like there is nothing that quite sounds like that record. And that was the first thing, like before I even gave any thought to the music, I was like, this sounds nuts. It was the first thing I heard, but I was like, tell me more. I want to listen to it more. And by the way, if I had $1 for every time like the fake phone off the hook sound,
mission accomplished.
You sons of bitch. Like so many times, and I know I'm listening to the record. I'm like, oh shit, somebody let the phone off the hook. Like, this because it's back when there was for the younger listeners, there were these things called landlines, and if you let them off the hook, they would make a really obnoxious noise that intros a very cool song on that record. But it would get me every time. I'm like, how is this still happening to me? Like, I feel
that was predicted, like right then and there at the moment that we were mixing, and the phone actually got knocked off the hook. My long arms laying there on the couch, listening back there in the control room, and here it goes, and it's mixing perfectly with the song. And there's another like Brent idea moment. Stop the presses, and we threw it on there, and we must have just laughed for hours, just thinking about people just like you having that experience, looking around for the phone that they don't even have anymore.
Again, happened way more times than I really care to admit, frankly. But
I'm just happy.
Yeah, it's
now if someone heard that, they go, "Fuck, that's a cool sound." I wonder how they got. What is that? How do we get that?
What kind of synth is that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What kind of plugin are you using?
That's being old. You get that by being old.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a good example of because when people talk about, not that I would reductively use the term to describe your band, but like when they talk about noise rock, that tends to mean different things for different people. Some of which seem to think it just means noise music, but like that is a noisy record. Like that record is noisy. Like in the fact that there are just crazy noises coming in from like over here, over there, under, whatever, underneath the couch. Like, who knows where they're coming from? But it all works because it's the first time I'd ever heard that kind of stuff used in record making. Which isn't to say that, like, of course, Velvet Underground, like, what I can trot off the record store list, the scroll that goes down onto the floor and goes into the, okay, we get it. But, like, for me, it seems like you guys kind of touched on something that, man, at least like 10, 15 years before anyone else is doing it. I mean, fuck Radiohead, like.
And nobody will be offended by that comment.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, that by the way, was it Tom York coming up next week?
They're vicious.
But I mean, did you have the idea that you were making something? It's like, oh, well, this is special. This is hitting a little different. This is hitting deep. No, not so much.
It was just fun. We were just having fun. We were just making it weird and noisy and rocking.
Yeah. There's something about, I remember seeing some interview with Iggy Pop, and it was on, it was literally like daytime TV. I don't remember who it actually was. And the interviewer, the woman, I'm spacing on her name. Anyway, she asked him, so what are you listening to these days? And he goes, the vacuum cleaner. And I remember when he said that, I thought, awesome. I remembered a time when I was, at home, like, in 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. And I'm on the floor reading or something, and I'm listening to the washing machine. And the washing machine maybe has shoes in it.
Yeah.
And it's going around, and I'm going, and I'm listening to it. And then, it ends, or my mom stops it to take the shoes out or something. And I remember going, oh,
turn that back on.
Turn it back on. And I remember going, and so what was happening was I was making something to it, and I was listening to it, and I was going, oh, that's, oh. And when he said that on TV, I was like, it was almost like Anita Bryant, but it wasn't her. I was like, fuck yes. Because I've done that. The blender, the washing machine, the dryer. Jesus. The dryer is better than the washing machine. Yeah. Because the dryer is not full of water. It's got a resonance to it. And so when we started doing that shit, it was like, this is making way more sense than it should. When we were adding noise to stuff, or when we were listening to what the ghost notes were doing, or the incidental notes, everything started to kind of open up. It was like, whoa, this is how we do it. This is how we can do it. We can have all this shit buried in here, and it's just naturally going to be that way. We'll naturally play it that way. We didn't really clue into being able to play the, I don't know how we clued into playing
the gorilla alarm clock.
Yeah. Or any of that stuff. I remember you had to play it through the PA, and
held it up to the microphone.
Right. And you were going to have to somehow stay to it. Yeah.
And it worked out okay.
But anyway, we
today have no idea how difficult it was back in the day.
Oh, fuck.
You had to hold up the gorilla alarm clock to the microphone like a popper. Well, but it shows through in their record and their sort of delight of using the unorthodox. I mean, again, it's a very compelling record and an interesting listen. I mean, did you always knew Stag Party was going to be the intro? Were you like, that's it? That's the first song? That's the
not until the Off the Hook signal got added to it. And then when that happened, I think that we kind of did know that was going to be the opener.
Yeah.
That song didn't have that on there until the late in the fourth quarter, if you pardon my sports. Grew up in Texas. Sports.
And it's got it's got that thing where, I mean, and maybe this is just me, I feel like people had more patience for longer records back then too. I think people have like gotten a little ADD riddled these days, and like a lot of the records, like, oh wow,
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, we made that thing to have an arc, right? It was neat, especially toward the end where the things blend in together and it kind of gets a little bit symphonic with Play-Doh going into example made in Japan and all that. You know, it gets like, and that was mastering. But that was built to listen to it. It wasn't built for, you know, one song here and one song there. It just wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, how do you guys reconcile that and being, you know, a band ostensibly that makes records to be listened to as records, and then now dealing with the fact that basically everything's a la carte? You know, like as we record this, it's Spotify is the gorilla in the room, right? But it's a la carte these days. Flat out.
We came up against that on this double 7-inch that we released, Fist in the Air, and there's a song on there called "The Donkey Suite," which is really two songs that related so well that they were the same song to us, and we released them as one track. Right? That's the one.
Yeah.
And it still burns Kevin's britches to this day that those aren't two separate tracks.
I mean, we set that precedent with Hanukkah on.
That's the one.
On Short of Popular. And
is it one track or is it two?
It's one. It's called Hanukkah, and there's two songs on it. But that's, you know, a lot of that was because that's also how we played it live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't know what came first. If we started playing it live and we're like, well, that's just the way it is. So,
but isn't it better to have it be one track?
Fuck yeah.
So when the kids go to Spotify and hit the one track, they're hearing the whole thing.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're on the right side of history.
There you go. Vindicated again. There you go.
Problem solved.
Yeah. So, and
rule them all.
I was gonna say just the last thing on Heroin Man is that I really enjoyed the recent editions, the art prints, the Hazelmeyer versions.
Oh, yeah, those are really gorgeous.
I thought that was cool.
Did that. I don't think he was into us in the day. I think it took him a while, right?
It wasn't that he wasn't into us. He intimated to me that we were kind of the competition. He knew that we played with a lot of his bands, and so whenever he would hear hullabaloo about us, he'd be like, "Yeah, Cherubs. What about Cows? What about all of my bands?" And so it all came full circle for him.
That's funny. They must have talked about that because I remember running into Thor at a show, at their show, not ours. But it was at Emo's, and Debbie Pastor introduced me to Thor, and she goes, "This is Kevin from Cherubs," and he literally goes, "Oh, Cherubs," and I was like, "Dude, you're the fucking guitar player in Cows. What are you fucking being a little boy for?" And it was just hilarious to see that, and I was like, I was swollen with pride, you know, because I was like, fuck yes, Thor from Cows just went, "Oh, Cherubs." I was like, yes.
Unique guitar player in his own right, I might add. You know,
a little bit. Like, damn.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Hayes came down to Austin and did an art show at Leona Gallery, and needed, you know, some big name local cred to bring some extra attention to the show, and he likes to press an only available at the art show single when possible, and so we were it. And at the end of the show, he walked up to me and he goes, "Okay, I get it. Y'all are pretty good." And then the relationship was born. And now,
how many fucking years later,
there's pictures of him holding my ball sack in front of his restaurant in Minneapolis.
Now he says, "Quit hugging me, man. Just quit hugging me." Fuck, you guys, quit hugging me.
I'm actually I'm wearing a No Coast t-shirt.
Oh yeah. I've got that one.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Almost.
I was gonna say that's the one we played, but I was like, oh, that's the one you guys were going to play and did not. Oh, sad. I was sad. About that.
Oh, damn! It's that's right. Because it was the Godzilla was the other one.
Right before the COVID times hit.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah.
So tell me, okay, I don't want to talk about being a bummer. JB was at No Coast 2020. Yes, I remember. it would be weird if you weren't. Tell me about the album art. How did you? I mean, that's a evocative album cover. That's one that catches the attention.
Well, I mean, God, we didn't have shit. That talk about fourth quarter. I mean, really, we basically what it was. Well, fuck, it was a lot of things. Now that I think about it, it was a lot of things. I mean, a friend of ours OD'd and on heroin, which is kind of where all that shit came from. And you know, we loved the Unsane art at that time, and it was a homage to that, and it definitely was influenced by that. I mean, that was a weird time when Dave died. It just felt like we were all invincible. And when he died, it was like, no fucking way. That's got to be not true. That can't happen. Doesn't happen to us. We are invincible. We are on fire. We're all these things. And I remember I couldn't even, it was so abstract to me that I could not process it. Brent and him were famous together. And for them and his family, obviously, what are you going to say? It was as real as it gets.
The chronology of events is, I think, misunderstood a bit because the album was already done, already in the works at the time of his death. And so the song wasn't originally written about him, but the whole thing just became about him and just not just him, but it was just one of those things that the future finally caught up and made sense about the past.
Yeah.
You know, a person, when it's a circle that's a little bit further away from you, you can deny it. You can go, it's a one-off. That person, you know, they fucked up. That's a one-off. When it starts happening closer and closer, and people will start dying closer and closer to you, and then it's right on you, it's really hard to deny. And I remember it was super confusing to be putting this record together and be super excited about it, and then have things like this happen. And it felt like it was coming after you. Like it was just coming after you. It's getting closer and getting closer. And it put a pall on things, but it also made them more special at the same time. It's like, fuck, man, we cannot fuck up. We have to stay alive.
I had already moved to New York at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's confusing.
It's super. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Because we made that record on the heels of touring like fools, and we were playing all that stuff.
Yes.
And when we went in to record it, we just dashed it off.
It was.
I mean, we were
first and
so
second take.
good from touring
Yeah.
that we were just going bam,
Yeah.
bam, bam, bam. It's like done next.
We
I
even
remember-
wrote a couple of songs just
Fuck
while
yeah.
the tape was rolling and
Yeah.
just played them.
I remember doing the vocals. Okay, I'll come in tomorrow and do the vocals. And he was like, what do you mean? Well, just run it from the beginning, and I'm going to do the vocals one right after the other. And he goes,
right. That.
yeah. So basically what I came in the next day and he ran the tape, and I just did the vocals one song after the other, one take, and then moved on. And because we were crazy. Had just gotten off the road, and we were just so tight. We were so good. And it was done. Because all of a sudden it was done. It's like, wait a minute, this got done too quick. Felt like it got done too quick. So that's when we were like, I'm going to put a track on this. I'll put the B's on here. And that was weird. That whole time period was weird. I forgot about that. You moving to New York.
Yeah, that
Pretty
was
big
December of '93. What's that?
That's a pretty big move.
Yeah, it was one that was inevitable for me at whatever point. And things went south with the band. Things went south with the girlfriend. And I went, phew.
Yeah, it's always been hard to keep it all together. It's just hard, being in a band. I remember then it was fun, but it was hard. You can't do that. It's goddamn.
That was actually the beginning of a period of time where Kevin realized how much he had to start worrying about me. And I think as self-protection, we just, lost contact slowly but surely.
It's true. I did not want to see you die.
Right.
There was that. There was that.
Indeed.
I was like, fuck.
Indeed.
Please go away and do that. Don't do it right in front
But
of me.
it was all a setup for 10 years later for our triumphant return.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is one of the least expected but most celebrated and returns I can think of amongst my friends group. Of like, wait, really? Like it was this like disbelief was the no, really? Same guys?
Yeah, join the club. We sat and had coffee for about 7 or 8 years, about 5 times a week, and chuckled at the idea every time, pretty much, that we got together. It was just, but it's because we thought getting together meant doing a reunion. It didn't occur to us that we could put out a new record and then just be a band again.
Just be a band.
We didn't want to do a reunion and go play, songs off of Heroin Man every night for people.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing but disdain for the reunion industrial complex. Don't get me wrong. I'm not not that big of a fan, but that is not how it hit at all with you guys. Like it just was just sort of like, hey, this is imagine that there was an alternate reality and that there's cherubs making music and that it sounds like this now. Yeah. Great.
Well, we would have done it sooner had we known that anybody gave a shit. But until the internet picked up steam and social media and we started hearing people started throwing around the L word, legends and all this kind of nonsense, Michigas. There was kind of a series of events that led to it. And so, like I said, coffee for 7 years, no way, no how.
Yeah.
What's the point? Who would even care? And then we start getting messages from these beautiful, crazy people from Italy. And then we start getting messages from people in the Netherlands and Germany on MySpace. And
that the tribute record.
And then
was
Sean
like
Gribb, he puts together this tribute of bands and we're like, what the fuck's going on here?
I mean,
it didn't seem like the shit was going to work anymore. That genre, I was thought, there's no way.
Yeah.
And I remember when seeing whores start to be a thing, and I was like, holy shit, this stuff still exists.
And Mets.
Yeah. I was like, not only does it exist, but there's real passion behind it. It doesn't feel, it feels like it's full of blood. It felt really there. And I was like, that's really amazing.
That being said, we had no idea if we were going to be able to create songs that we liked that didn't sound 1994 all over again until we got into the room and gave it a shot. We were trepidatious.
Did you feel so? First of all, the first thing I want to say is like again, and Cherubs is one of those bands that the legend has grown, and I feel like that's a success story for how music propagates now. That weirdo music made by weirdos for weirdos, it's easier to find its audience now, and that includes not just like a town you're playing, but all over the world.
That's true.
Yeah,
and that's amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, that it wouldn't have happened if it hadn't have been for, people making the tribute record, and then it wouldn't have happened if the Italians wouldn't have taken us under their wing and brought us over there. I mean, they made that shit happen, and it wouldn't have happened otherwise. I mean, not that we couldn't have done it, but we needed help.
Yeah, Manuel Ynfynyty was instrumental to that happening.
Absolutely.
Could not have done it without him.
Yeah.
So so then the other side of it is it seems like you're walking into it with a certain amount of critical thinking and self-awareness that you know, like nobody wants to look foolish. Nobody wants to like, if you're going to do it, you're going to do the thing. Nobody wants to look foolish doing it, right? Like you want to make sure it's worthwhile, and you want to make sure.
There was plenty of time thinking of those thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing that almost on every song sometimes, where you're going, is this song, how is this in our continuum? How does this song fit in? Are we pushing a boundary? Are we, you know, is this a waste of a person's time? You know, it's like, we don't want to put anything out that's going to waste anybody's time. I would hate to do something like that.
And had we not received the proper feedback that we so desperately needed to hear, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. But when we put out To Ynfynyty, when we were writing and working on those songs, we didn't want it to sound like Heroin Man 2.
Right.
We didn't want it to sound like we had gone off on our disco phase for some completely different band. We wanted
we're doing that now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now we can do that.
We wanted to sound like we kind of picked up where we left off and then advanced it in a natural progression. And that's all these comments started popping up that said exactly that. And we were like, all right, high fives all over the place. Keep it going.
Well, and I think, if I remember right, that sort of like Bandcamp in its infancy played a part in the story, which, you know, as I've mentioned, and it blows them. I'm on these other shows, and I almost like being on them more than talking to actual music interview people. They don't have a frame of reference. So when I say like, no, there is one good service. There's a service that is actually artist friendly, and that's Bandcamp, and everything else is trying to make you sharecrop, basically.
Bandcamp is incredible. I remember when it first came on, and I thought, man, this is a good idea. It's going to last about 2 months, and they just kept on having good ideas. They kept on going, what else can we do? What else can we do? How can we turn this into something? And every time they were just knocking it out of the park. I was really impressed every time. It's like, fuck, these guys are changing the game.
It's very punk rock in its way.
It's totally punk rock.
It is.
Yeah. And it's so I love that that's part of the story. And that was like what, 2014, right? That you guys reconvened and you start being like, all right, let's you know, strap it on and let's go. Let's figure this out. Is there a moment that you hit the like boulder rolling down the hill where you're like, all right, yeah, sure, let's do this? Like, was there like that key factor, that key moment of just like, yeah, this is the right decision, we're going with it?
For me, yes, it was immediate. It was really a joyful experience to get in the room and have it be loud and play together and have it sound like us, but not be playing anything that we had ever done before. It was cool.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was going to be ridiculous. And I remember resisting it mightily because I was thinking, oh, we're going to get in this room as these older dudes and we're going to try to take a stab at some glory. And then when we actually
want to play Heroin Man.
Yeah, exactly. You want to try to play Black House. Yeah. And then when we started playing, I was like, holy shit. I couldn't believe how good it felt. I just didn't think that it was necessary. And now I actually do think it's necessary. Like, it's part of who I am. And I think it's part of us. It's part of who we are. And it's not that I don't even think we identify it with it. We are it. And when it's not there, you're missing a piece. And so when we started playing and I thought, oh my God, this doesn't feel ridiculous. Why doesn't it feel ridiculous? It should, but it didn't. And we kept on going. And, you know, Brutal Panda, the idea that those guys believed in it enough to just go, let's do this. You guys are great. Like, that just felt so silly. And then yet all we could do was take it seriously enough to do it. So we did.
Yeah, all these people at crucial moments were just so emotionally generous, and it was hard to deny at one point. You know, we tried.
We had to take responsibility for it. That's the fucking weird thing is, like, you don't think you're going to have any effect on people. You're just doing this shit. And then when these people come back and they go, you fucking have to do this. You started it. And you're like, wow, we have to take responsibility for what we did. And that doesn't make any sense.
And then
noise rock.
And then people's kids are contacting you saying, you got me through the tough times in my teenage years. And
yeah, I was like,
it's
holy
like,
shit.
This shit has been passed down to another generation now.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. Like, I wouldn't have guessed that. That's some legacy shit.
We're going to keep making weirdo music.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to be with each other because nobody else would have us.
No.
Not with our process.
It's such a fucking
ridiculous.
fucked up process.
To be fair, it does sound very fucked up. Yes.
Okay, good.
I say that as a
thank you.
Thank you for that.
Well, and it just occurs to me too that, there's a lot of stories of bands that, come back and then they do stuff, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's their best work, and sometimes it's just kind of there, and sometimes it's like, oh man, you really shouldn't have done that. But I feel like with you guys, it's pretty vital. Like, it's almost this is gonna probably sound a weird parallel, but like Wire. And the fact that Wire's a band that just threw out the rule book 17 different times, and that was like the first 3 years they were a band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of my all-time favorites and biggest influences.
They're crazy good.
And they've, some of the stuff they've put out like in recent years, like, it's like, I wish people would like pay more attention to these records because they kind of rip, man. Like, it's great.
I remember running into one of those records. I don't remember which one it was now, but I think it was after they'd been quiet for a long time, and it came out, and I was like, fuck, this record is kind of deadly.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nasty.
Bend was the one that, like, I was like, God damn, this might be better than this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to get past the difference of the sounds that they're choosing to use and just listen to what the songs are really doing, and you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you think back, to even a record I love like Chairs Missing, where it's kind of cold and austere sounding, using the recording technologies of the day. So then it's like, well, of course they would like use the recording technologies of now to make something. Of course, like that's normalized to us. We hear it and like, oh, that sounds like that Wire record. And it's like, no, that sounded like something from Mars when it came out. If you listen to like Mott the Hoople. No offense to Mott the Hoople, Wire's going to sound like it came from Jupiter, like it's
yeah. I remember one of the things that I have always been bummed about was Six Finger Satellite.
Yes.
When they came on the scene, Severe Exposure was, before Severe Exposure, the one with Laughing Larry and all that shit on it. The
Last Dance Fairy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bird
pigeon is the most popular bird.
It's permanently mixed up with the Shellac single in my mind now, which is the bird is the most popular finger, and I can't ever like it. It's just a permanent mashup. Anyway.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I used to have that, by the way, and ex-girlfriend took it, and I'm super pissed about it. But
ooh, that's forever.
Obviously, I'm still pissed about it. I was like,
yeah, exactly. That's not going away.
Anyway, yeah, Six Finger Satellite.
Optimistic.
Yeah.
Well, when they did that record, I was like, fuck, that's an amazing record.
Yeah.
And I thought they'll never top it. And then they put out fucking Severe Exposure. And I just thought, what the fuck? That is an incredible record. It's just one of the most amazing records.
Yeah.
And then Paranormalized came out, and I was like, still badass. Not Severe Exposure, but badass. And then is that when
Law of Ruins was after that, I think.
Yeah, and then it was like, uh-oh, what's happening? And dude had left to start Juan McLean, right? Who was that?
The
guitar player.
Mm-hmm. And lots of side projects. Yeah.
And then Six Finger Satellite started putting out these records, right? And I was like, but they didn't have the juice. The fucking juice was gone. And I thought, is that what we're going to do? Are we going to put out some shit and it's not going to have any juice? It's not going to have the thing. And I was so worried about that with To Ynfynyty. And then when it started to come together, I was like, it's got some juice. I fucking don't know who's going to listen to it. It's all going to be fucking 50-year-old dudes who who are like, man, I knew these guys back in the day. I fucking saw them in Baltimore.
Nothing against the 50-year-old dude.
No,
Absolutely not.
great.
That's who we are. But I was
Better
like,
when they're not on the internet, which
no kids are gonna listen to this. Kids are they're not listening to this shit. They're listening to something else.
but they are.
And it just made me it just bummed me out even further. Regardless of what we were gonna do, it bummed me out further about Six Finger Satellite.
Well,
I loved them.
It was just Jeremiah Ryan and the guys from Blanded at some point, right? It was just like
Yeah.
it wasn't the same band. Like you didn't have Rick, you didn't have Juan McLean, so and like whatever. It's to keep it the same band. Okay, fine. I ultimately, so again, I guess this is the world's most insular Six Finger Satellite discussion board, apparently. But
Sure.
I kind of like La Ruins now. I didn't love it when it came, but I came back to that record. I dig it now, and
Good.
I think it's good. But I was with you. I was sort of like, oh, okay, huh. Well, it looks cool.
Yeah, it was nice art. I liked it.
All right, so yeah, all right. So we've talked around to infinity. I think it'd be disingenuous not to address the actual music. So when you're writing those songs, right, you're to a certain degree competing with yourself, but also trying to make it interesting for yourself. But then now there's this history behind it, and you're basically in a different epoch of time as well. So do you have to just put that away? Is that kind of always in back in mind? I mean,
There's no putting it away.
No, you're always
with every note, every decision. Do we do this 3 times? Do we do it 4 times? Do we do 1 measure of 7 at the end of 3 measures of 8? Like every decision is contemplating, how is this going to sound
in 2014?
In 2014,
Right.
To the people who listened to us in 1992. What are they going to say about this?
Will they care? Who cares? Are people going to care? Will it mean something to anyone but us, you know? Oh boy.
Well, and you know, it stands on its own. Like I feel like you don't necessarily need to have Icing or have Heroin Man to be like, hey, this is cool. I like this. This is a good record. And isn't that what it's all about, really? Like you don't have to, you don't have to fight yourself from 15 years ago like that. It's like some Will Smith movie where he does that. That like
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. But it's like a time travel concern, and like he's an assassin, and like his younger self comes to assassin. I don't remember exactly. I haven't seen it. I don't know about it, but I'm pretty sure that it exists. And I'm pretty sure it's Will Smith. Anyway, moving on. When your younger self to assassinate you, no. So then you get to come back and play the songs. New audiences, new people. Some of the folks that are the same, but a little older, maybe shirt sizes too bigger. Like
a little bit.
It happens. But people respond to it. Like it's vital. It works. Like it flies, for lack of a better term, right? So, I mean, do you just like let loose a huge sigh of relief of like, oh God, I'm glad that worked.
Absolutely.
The biggest sigh you could imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like just a fucking crapshoot, and you stick it out there like, God damn.
And we had something stuck in our craw about playing domestic shows. And so Europe was really the goal, because right before we disbanded, we had a nice tour set up in Europe by Todd Cote from Rave Bookings, and it didn't happen. So we never made it over there. And so that was the main focus. And then got to talking with Manuel, went back and forth about it, how we could make it happen logistically, financially, whatever. And when we went over there, that really, for me, I think for Kevin as well, that like solidified this idea, like we are a band for the foreseeable future until we physically cannot do this anymore, because the reception over there were some tears every night. There was a lot of rib crushing hugs and accompanied by tears. It was just like, my God, this is why I'm alive.
That's a weird thing.
But
Yeah,
it's weird.
I forgot about the bee in the bonnet for the tour, the European tour. It was a thing that we always aspired to.
Yeah.
Everybody got to go. You were supposed to go somewhere with Sugar Shack, and you didn't get to go.
I was supposed to go Australia.
I was supposed to go with Ed Hall to somewhere. I bailed just in time to not go, and so we had never gone over there. And we were.
I went to Norway with Fuck Emos, but
no, that's good. That was good because I remember you talking about that, and I was so envious of that because I was like,
it was fun as shit. But...
So we wanted to do that. We wanted.
Yeah. And you're the music connects with people, like the experiences mean something, right?
And then somehow girls started to like it too later. Yeah. Took a long ass time.
Surprise, they like weird music too. Who could have predicted? Yeah,
not us.
Well, and so then you have the thing where you're being a band. And it's the same people, but you're different people. You're older. You're hopefully a little wiser. Learned a lesson or two.
Yeah.
But you're still the same people. So you have this like long storied relationship. You kind of know how each other plays, for lack of a better term. Maybe if that means like just counts. I don't know what you're doing there, but I'm gonna count it out. That kind of mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, do the songs start coming pretty easily? Is it something where you are two in your head about it, like as far as after that initial volley, like what became like the next record is it just come a time where you're like, hey, let's just write another record, let's do it, or was it just like a natural outgrowth of what we were doing?
Man, that should be an easy answer because that's not ancient history.
Well,
that's like that was like. That's not that
are you asking about Immaculata?
Yeah. Between To Ynfynyty to Immaculata. Like.
Oh yeah, all the pressure was off, and then that's when we started having the conversations about we can do whatever we want. We don't have to follow any of these imaginary rules that we've made up about what this first record out of the gate after 20 years needs to be. And if you listen to the record, it's pretty obvious that we explored different parts of our musicality.
Yeah.
And I love that record. I had a lot of fun working on those songs. I had a lot of fun recording those songs, playing those songs live. I still want to play those songs live.
Yeah.
I really like that record.
Yeah, that's interesting. I really like that record too. To Ynfynyty to me is hazy because I'm not super attached to a lot of those songs. But there's something about Immaculata that seems really, I don't know. There's something different about it. I really feel those songs differently.
Can I state what may be a controversial opinion?
Yeah.
I think it's your best record.
What?
I've heard that before.
I really do.
Before, I appreciate that comment.
I do too. Damn. Thank you.
Yeah. That's no patch on Heroin Man. Like I said, iconic. It's amazing. But like I think that's the one. And like it's weird because I didn't think that at first. I was like, oh, this is good. Right on. It's almost like right on, guys. Cool. Like that was sort of my initial reaction. But it's got hooks, man. It's got hooks. It sticks with you. And
what turned you?
I just kept listening to it. Like it had
reps.
Yeah, reps. Because there's some songs on there that you don't understand what the fuck's going on the first couple times you listen to it.
No, and that for me, that's a plus. Like that's a Conan Neutron thing, right? Like you're never, and by the way, you're never gonna get rich doing stuff that caters to me ever. But like I'm that guy. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like what the Sam Hill's going on there? Oh, that's cool. Right on.
Sam Hill.
And that's what happened to me with the first Boss Hogg record. Like I wasn't sure like what's going on with this record the first couple times I listened to it, and it very soon after became like my favorite record ever. Just
same with Pussy Galore.
Yeah.
There was some early Pussy Galore stuff where you're going, Jesus Christ, everybody get out of everybody else's way. And then you realize, holy fuck, it's kind of intertwined. They may be playing three different songs, but the fucking shit works.
But they're playing them together.
Exactly. They're playing them together.
Years ago, a younger me characterized it as a pack full of cherry bombs being lit and thrown into a New York alleyway. And I felt pretty good.
Sure. I'll go with that.
But if you keep listening, it's like, no, there's hooks there. It's just that, like, good Lord, that is a noisy ass band. Like, you know,
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
With all the songs strung together.
And sidebar, when John Spencer went out with Melvins with Sam Coombs from Quasi and Bob Burt doing the junk percussion and M Sword, and there's a couple like Pussy Galore songs in the set, I was like, hell yeah, do your standards. You're at the Johnny Cash level, man. You do it. You do.
Well,
it.
he was playing the hits. That's what that was supposed to be about. That's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was real cool. That was awesome. So all right, so let's talk about Immaculata. So 2019, you got this record. Like I said, man, some of it like hits like shoegaze moments, like, and that's something where it's like, God, it works, and it's not that different thematically as far as how you guys put songs together, but it hits different. I mean, were you just like, this is what we're doing now? You know, did you know where did that go? And I know I've asked like 7 times, but like, believe me, you guys, I need to ask it at least 7 times.
Well, so there's a song on To Ynfynyty called Party Ice. And I think that's where we accidentally stumbled upon the fact that we could do some kind of a shoegaze thing and really like it. And so that was always one of our very favorite songs on the record. Almost always the worst reception playing it live, but that's fine. It's a deep cut. It's not a hit. But I think that influence started.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
had Party Ice in mind many times as we were working through songs.
Yeah, and we did actually. I remember talking about that a lot, where we would hold up songs from Immaculata. We would hold them up to Party Ice, and we would go, "Is this as good a song as Party Ice? Does this do what Party Ice does? Does this take you somewhere and leave you somewhere else?" With gently, you know, it's not, because that song starts one place and goes. It takes you on a journey. It goes several other places and it leaves you somewhere else without a parade ending. You know, we call the parade
and
parade
no
ending.
Referring back to anything.
Yeah, you leave a part
linear.
and you go to another part and you never come back, but it doesn't feel like, you know, suites. You know, you're not going into a different suite. You're going, it's still the same journey. And so we were like, this song has this weird quality to it that just in terms of its quality, we wanted everything else to feel whole like that, or
like human experience, like
exactly. So, and I forgot about the ending, how it ends with those big chords and and you know, that's basically trying to figure out how to do something in this weird tuning where you're making these bar chord sounding things, but you're having to figure out how to do it because you're not in the regular tuning, and it's a lot easier in standard. In that particular way. And it felt, so we now we had that in the toolbox. That's really what it was. Now we had that in the toolbox. We can use it on Immaculata.
And we're getting influenced by ourselves at that point. So
right.
No guilt.
Yeah, no guilt. Exactly. You're going, well, at least we're not ripping anybody off. We are ripping ourselves off, but hopefully we won't get fucked up like John Fogerty did.
By the way, if you haven't read his autobiography, I highly recommend it. Like,
oh no shit.
Really.
And you know, for you, if you haven't seen that Leonard Skinner documentary on Netflix,
I loved it.
So good, unbelievable. Those guys, what a bunch of weirdos coming out of there. Fuck, they're so cool.
Jack by the river, just jamming for hours at a time, like
in the Hell House. God damn, that was so cool.
They're in the doghouse now, though. They're forever.
Oh yeah, it's
forever over here.
Yeah, it's. But goddamn, they are so advanced beyond what you would have ever guessed.
So that doc did for me the same way that the Iron Maiden doc, where Bruce Dickinson's flying them all around the world and they're playing all these like remote locations. Like, well, he's literally flying the plane. It's called Flight 666. It's super sick. It's super worth it. So it made me, and I was like, Iron Maiden's fine. Yeah, it's good, cool.
Yeah.
But, like, I never had super strong feelings about it, but it made me dig them a lot more. And so in that same way, that Leonard Skinner movie, the documentary,
cool.
Like, cool. Man, this is actually pretty rad. Like I was always maybe kind of on the fence on them a little bit. Like they got some jammers, but I was like, oh, whatever. I don't know these guys. I don't know what's up with them. But yeah, I was like, oh no, they're some good old boys that like playing.
Yeah, yeah, and they were not. They were.
Nobody was waiting for that epiphany, by the way, from me. Nobody was waiting for that. But like that's
exactly. I wasn't waiting to see a damn Leonard Skinner documentary. I tell you that.
Yeah. I wasn't looking for it, and someone's like,
no. I had a friend told me about it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll get to that in sometime in my next life. And then when I accidentally put it on, I was like, wait a minute, this is fucking cool as shit.
Yeah,
they're just so homespun.
It's just dudes that love playing music, man, and they like playing it for long periods of time, and like it's
and they were embarrassed about the Rebel Flag shit.
Yeah,
you know,
that
was a real revelation to me. You know, it was really cool.
Well, it comes from the perspective of be curious, not judgmental, right?
Absolutely. They just didn't know. And when they found out, they were fucking embarrassed. It's like, fuck.
Bummer.
Well, unfortunately, the world has been whittled down to 2 categories. You're either with us or you're against us.
Yeah, it is pretty staunch. It's pretty staunch.
So Immaculata, as much as I like the record, we haven't talked about the contents of it really that much, other than the fact that it's reference basically, is it as good as the song from Ynfynyty or not? So, like, do you have? So first of all, the guy you work with, Eric Wofford, right? Is that?
Yeah.
I should know that. One of my best friends growing up, last name was Wofford, so I should know that. But which is not a common name.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately, died an early death. But that's a completely different podcast and a different story.
Wofford.
So he'd worked with a lot of bands. Like Explosions in the Sky is pretty cool, right? They got an ethos, they got a sound, they got a feel to what they do. Yeah. My Morning Jacket, not really my thing, but respect to the folks that are. How did that end up being? Like it seemed like an out of the box choice to me as an outsider. Like how'd you end up working with him for that?
Well, we went and toured a couple of places, and they were great. They were real pro and slick, and just not us. And we had actually gone by and checked out Eric's place when we were looking for somewhere to record to Ynfynyty. And we really fell in love with it. There's this balcony that you can stand there and overlook the Colorado River and all this scraggly Texas scrub brush. And it's just, like ugly, beautiful, like we aspire to. And we came very close to doing it there, and then Mike McCarthy's name popped up out of somewhere. I don't remember how that happened.
Yeah,
but he was just the how do you describe Mike?
He kind of became our dad.
He was just grumpy enough.
He was grumpy dad
and skilled enough to be perfect. So we worked with him on that one. And then when it came time to do another record, then we went back to Eric's and we looked around again, and it felt like home. It's a block away from where I had worked, where my offices were for 12 years.
It was in the hood.
It was in the hood.
Yeah. And we didn't need a dad this time.
Yeah.
We really did need a dad the first time, and it was really beneficial, but we didn't need one this time.
Yeah.
No offense to Mike at all. He was badass, but Eric is just a great guy, and he's just really sweet. And, those drums sounded fucking badass. I remember seeing some kind of a review of the record, and the guy was like, he was a metal guy or something. And he goes, it sounds like they played their shit in the same room together. It just sounds like they're playing their instruments and they're in the room. And I was like, and all these flashbacks of how metal stuff gets recorded, where they're in the studio next to the board playing the solo, and then the bass player's playing the thing, and I'm going, oh yeah, I guess so. The distinctness of that was probably so weird sounding to this dude, that this is so indistinct and live sounding. I was like, yeah, we were in the same room. That's the way we were trying to be in the same room. We were trying to play it like you play music.
Yeah, the drums are 6 feet behind the soundboard in that studio, which that studio doesn't exist in its same form anymore.
It's gone. But he was great, and he was game, and he was patient.
And he picked his battles when he strongly disagreed with something that was being proposed.
Yep.
And we'd give him a shot at convincing us otherwise. And sometimes he would win us over and sometimes not. And then he'd just have to kind of like shake his head and do it. And everybody had their moment. Like I said, like whoever is on the scent the strongest at any given time, at any given part of any given song on any given issue, usually wins the battle. And it was a group effort. It was really fun. I would love to record with them again sometime, if possible.
It made for a very different sounding record too, and again, like but it sounds, if you're a fan, it sounds like you guys. It doesn't sound like, you're playing ska songs or nothing. It's like it all works, and it's somewhat seemingly dark stuff, being traveled song wise, but it's not even necessarily, to me, a dark dude. Not that much of a dark record, and I think that's also like a fine road to walk.
Yeah, I don't see it as a dark record either. Actually,
it seems celebratory to me,
and it was.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah,
there's just 2 songs on there that I wish we would have been taking a little bit more risk on the mixing of, and then it kind of would have been the perfect record for me. 2 songs holding me back on that, but it kind of is my favorite record that we've done.
What are they? There was one of those
Pacemaker,
right? Yeah,
the guitar just needed to be way louder. The drums needed to be
that could have
way
been
back into the back, and so the weird fight.
I know
the time fight wouldn't be so apparent.
Yeah,
and then the other one was
Terminator.
No, different movie.
Dick.
What's the other one? You know what the other one is?
You're gonna have to ask me to remember our names of our songs. That's not fair.
That real plotting one, kind of monotonous. And the drums were too loud on it too, and the guitar was not loud enough.
Gotcha.
I don't remember the name of it.
Right.
Fuck that song. It's dead to me.
He's a big baby.
But to hell with it anyway.
Either for me or you're against me. That song is clearly against me.
I turned my back on you.
Apparently. So and then of course, very recent at the time of this recording.
Oh fuck! I love that. You're right.
Tigers in the
You're
Sky.
right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Needs more guitar and less drums.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You were saying?
Oh, I was just saying SLO BLO. Stuff that didn't fit, but is also awesome. And what a nice surprise at the time of this broadcast. It's about a month old, like out in the world, and that was sort of like, what? More Cherubs? What?
That was a weird one, man. That was going to be a split with Pig Destroyer.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, originally, that's what it was going to be, and we were going to put all that stuff on one side, and Pig Destroyer was going to put stuff on the other side.
But it would have had to have been on 33 1/3 to get all those songs on one side.
It's a lot of
we were hell bent on having it be a either or speed record.
And Pig Destroyer didn't have any song. They didn't have any songs yet. We assumed or thought they may have some songs left over. And I'm not saying that we know Pig Destroyer. We don't. That was a idea from Rennie over at Relapse, and we pursued it for a while, And it was during the pandemic, and everybody was so discombobulated, and they were having a really hard. He was going to have to write stuff. They hadn't written anything,
Yeah.
and we were like, "Fuck it, love you guys, but we're just gonna forge ahead." And
You had to have stuff in the can.
yeah, that's
that
the only
time
way it would have
period.
worked, because nobody could get in the studio. There's no way that was going to happen unless you were doing it. You played all
At
the
your
fucking
house.
shit in yourself
You got a
in the
studio at
living
your
room.
house,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when it turned the corner,
Nathan.
we had that shit.
Dick.
We had it done, but those were things that we had already kind of knew that they were not going to work in the sequence.
Yeah.
So we did not pay much attention to them. They needed to be mixed. They really needed some attention. And so that was one thing that Eric was able to do. He's able to go in and kind of go, okay, stay out of my life. Let me do this by myself, and I will present it back to you, and it will be fixed. And he did a good job on it. I mean, we went back and forth a couple times, but not anything major.
I mean, it's pretty cool. There's like that acoustic version of Suey Pig, like that's.
Oh yeah.
Didn't expect that. That was cool. Like there's some nice moments there, and it's, look, anytime in these bizarre ass times, it's something like worth paying attention to that like kind of like takes your mind off the imminent death and destruction and awfulness of the world. I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got to do a Joe Papa Pies cover.
You remember Joe Papa Pies, Conan?
A song that we had stolen lyrics from on another song earlier.
Yeah. Only through friends, which is funny because I grew up in Modesto, so wasn't that far away, but no internet.
Holy shit! You grew up in Modesto, so you're a John Wayne fan.
Yeah, well, okay, that's we're closing it out, and that's a completely different podcast. But we
Damn,
John Wayne and Leonard Skinner.
Damn,
my jams.
Well, I mean, I'm also the guy that was. Pavement was around in the next city over doing their best work, and I was way too punk rock to be like, no,
fuck Pavement, fucking
it
hippies.
sucks. You know what's great? Fucking My War, and it is. I was also an idiot, so what are you gonna do? And
welcome.
Yeah, whatever we do, aren't we all at a
yes, moment?
Yes. Fellas, this has been awesome. So last thing, this is the only canned question I ever ask anyone. You can take your pick. Who wants to go first? Choose to interpret it however you like, but why do you do what you
do? Well, to me, it's the only thing that the mystery is intact. Music is a weird thing, and it's so subjective. And it's the only thing that I can always tap into and go, what the fuck is this? Why is this captivating? Why can I lose my mind? Why can I not think about anything else? How does this work? It's the only thing that you can express emptily, where you're empty. And I don't know anything else like that. Everything else in my life has a bunch of reasons, has a bunch of fucking justifications and reasons, and you do this because of this, and practicalities, and it's, for me, music and like running until you can't breathe are the only things that you are alive, and maybe running from a bear, you're alive, you're super alive. So the Cherubs part of it is the real conundrum, because there's something about it that's got so much nastiness, and yet it's so sweet. We're sweet people, but nothing does to me what Cherubs does. And so I don't really even question it. I go, oh, that's Cherubs. All that is not, but this is Cherubs. That's a gift. That's lucky. We're just lucky on that shit. Okay.
That's good.
That's pretty good,
yeah,
huh?
Real
oh,
good.
Man, I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth.
No, it's just the same as everything else. Some people have all these rich lives full of activities and relationships and fascinations, and yet without that perfect partner, none of it matters to them. They're at home, they're depressed, and they're not making sense out of any of it. And for me, Cherubs is that thing much of the time, because I do have a rich life and I'm very lucky in a lot of ways, and I've got all this stuff, and I don't know, there's something about that helps everything else get absorbed at the level that it deserves to be absorbed and appreciated. But most simply put, as my Italian brothers, Cher, Daniel, and Giaco would say, we do it because we must.
We must do it.
Kevin, Brent, thank you guys so much, man. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Catch you next time.
Until next time. Oh, there they go. How cool was that? Answer, pretty cool. Let's hear a tune. All right.
Is this thing on?
So, what do we have there? Well, we had some jammers by a little band you may have heard of, Cherubs.
Can you hear me now?
Kevin, Brent, and Owen. It was a Suey Pig, and then before that we had Stag Party. So Suey Pig, of course, is off of the most recent proper record, I guess, Immaculata High. And before that we had the quintessential opener. Quintessential, sure. Of Heroin Man, Stag Party. And that's, those are the Cherubs dudes. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I certainly did. Once again, as always, the name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so much for listening to it. It airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific on Radio Nope, RadioNope.com. Say yes to Nope.
We come to the close of our broadcast day.
Streaming now on Twitch, as well as YouTube. Maybe I'll continue doing Facebook.
Farewell transmission.
I don't know. We'll see. But on other things as well. But most importantly, if you like the episode and you want episodes sooner, or you just want to support the show, Patreon.com/Protonic Reversal. $1 a month. We'll achieve that goal.
Within the sound of my voice.
Thanks for folks sharing the episodes around, letting people know about it, and also just for listening. But all that stuff helps people find the show. You know, subscribe, like all the things that everyone always tells you to do. You know, that stuff helps this show as well. You can find the Cherubs dudes on Bandcamp, as well as the other listening services that we've established are not punk rock as well.
Microphone turns sound into
Anyway,
electricity.
thanks for listening. Stay safe out there.
Can you hear me now?
And as always,
Route 128,
check you
dark
later.
and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on.